Hey guys, welcome to Fleetyards. I'm Captain Foley.
Alright, and we have a special fan requested commission ship today.
We do. Requested by Matthew Lee. Today we are looking at a pretty cool little ship. What are we looking at, Commander?
So exciting. The X-304, the Daedalus class. The Daedalus starship from Stargate, SG-1, and in Atlantis, and Once in the Universe. One of my personal favourite ships of all time. I'm sure you're going to say it's a bit boxy and stuff. We'll get there, but let's see what you think. Like I say, I've just such a soft place in my heart for this one. And double bonus, Stuart, as we sometimes do on Trekyards, and we did in fact with the Prometheus, we are going to be looking at the original 3D model used in Stargate. So canon details, canon stuff, and it is worth mentioning, we have scale charts coming up that, as we mentioned in the Prometheus episode, you might be surprised about. This is the default scale as seen in the show, so that's going to be interesting, because it's not the size that either of us thought it was. I think. Well, cool. I think we'll think that. So thank you, Matthew Lee.
Matthew Lee. Yeah.
There we go. So thank you, Matthew Lee, and we hope you enjoy this ship. Oh, I'm so excited, Stuart. This is a good one. Too. Stuart, have you watched Stargate, and have you seen this ship before?
I've watched a little bit of Stargate. I can't really get into it. My wife is a big fan of it, and she tries to get me to watch it. And I always watch the same episodes whenever I sit down to watch it. So, but yes, I've seen this ship before, and it is a pretty cool little ship, actually.
Well, I mean, first reaction, remember any first thoughts you had, and what do you think now?
First thoughts I had was it looks very much like Battlestar Galactica, just chopped up to pieces, like the original 1970s Battlestar Galactica. Okay. It's kind of got that look with those side things. But yeah, it's a cool ship, and I can see Earth as, you know, one of our first spaceships. This is how it would be represented and look. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, this is like one of my favorite three. I love the Pegasus. I love this, and I think the Enterprise is probably the other third. It's just I just absolutely adore this as a design. Just I think it's so realistically progressive. I mean, it's just an aircraft carrier in space. It's got two big hangars, and then all the different areas are just functional. And then you've got these, but the layering and the control tower, just like an aircraft carrier again. It's very natural to me, and I love how it curves and just its first appearance in Atlantis, which I don't know if you've seen any of Atlantis.
Yeah, Atlantis is actually my favorite of the Stargate franchise. So
well, it appears at the end of the start of the second season, of Siege Part 3, and it's this triumphant moment. It comes in and suddenly, boom, it's not just a first ship that Earth has developed, it's our first dedicated, integrated alien technology ship designed for everything, and it comes in with absolute storm, beaming technology, fast hyperspace, nukes, hornets, railguns, everything you need, and it's got, and just the episode is such a great episode, and it just starts off with such a bang. And the fact that this ship is never, this is the definitive ship from Stargate from then on. It can take on motherships, it can take on hive ships. It's a small ship in the grand scheme, but it's so effective because it's got the, what should be used of Ghoul technology. It's got Asgard technology, all of it's integrated. And the final version, even more integrated. It really is, it became something incredible. And to see a show like Stargate where there were us at our timeline. We use guns, we use UAVs. We don't have the technology to then see them year upon year develop to get to spaceships and to get to this second gen, first human spaceship, fully developed and functional and designed to everything. Such a dream. And sorry, I'm rambling a bit now.
You are.
Yes.
I have a question though.
Yes.
So since this is introduced in Stargate Atlantis,
yes.
This is not the one that MacGyver wants to call the Enterprise.
That's Prometheus. That's their first one. That's their makeshift sort of ship. This is the full-on carrier version. And this is an interesting episode because, like I said, this is a real model which gives us unique opportunities to actually do proper scale. Now, one thing that we always say is that we go by the CG scale. This is when you bring in a model into the CG world, that's the default sizing. So in any shot, that's what the artists have to work with. That's the sizing. Now, they might tweak it based on the scene, to get a shot looking good, but the light rig is based on that and all these other things. So we have this sizing, we have real Star Trek sizings we're going to compare in a moment, and that is the actual sizing. And while online it might say a different size, that might be just something someone invented, but this is the actual size it was used in the scenes, which is interesting. So let's take us to the next picture, and now we're doing scale very quickly. This is the actual scale of the ship, and I was very surprised when I did these renders, but you tell me what you think.
I was surprised too. I'm surprised you didn't ask me what you thought. I thought the scale would be before we went to this picture, which normally you would.
Well, what would you have said then?
I would have said the size of the Connie. lengthwise,
Mm-hmm.
but it is bigger. It's twice as big.
Mm-hmm.
So is the Enterprise E, which is amazing.
Mm.
As everyone knows, I'm more of a Star Trek guy, so I could to compare all the ships we look at here with Star Trek technology and sizing. So.
And I compare it to these two because the Connie is the one that we all roughly know the size of, and then the E is the biggest. So it's a good sort of range of sizing. But does that feel too big, too small, weird to you? I don't know. What do you think?
It feels right. It feels right. Well, for one of our, this isn't one of our first spaceships.
This is our second, literally our second ship. Well, if you can count the other. No, the X-301 was our first fighter, the X-302 was our first human fighter, then our first big spaceship was X-303, this is the X-304, this is the first purpose-built everything ship.
Okay.
So it's our fourth ship, technically.
I can see it being a little too big, just a little bit too big for that, but I don't have a problem with it, really. I would just assume something that, Earth would build with kind of our technology today. Well, I know you got alien technology on there too.
Yes.
But would be something around Connie's size. These huge spaceships that we see in all these sci-fi franchises kind of take me out of it a little bit. It's like, why is it so big all the time? But this one's not too bad.
Yeah, I think this is a very natural one because when I was dissecting this model and looking at the scaling, I have the F302 model as well, so we'll do that eventually, which is the fighter, and obviously these things should be scaled together, and they are. So I brought the F302 in, and if you look at the show, well, each of those hangars is a large space where there's two flanks of F-32s like that, and then space to launch. So, I mean, it is designed to be... if you think of... the best way I can say this is, that classic picture we always see online where the Constitution class is about the same size as the modern-day aircraft carrier?
Yes, yeah.
Well, if you look at what the hangar is, that's roughly the same size as the Connie, which is roughly the same size as the aircraft carrier. So it's filling in that role, and beyond that, obviously, you need to have all the living space... This is how long. I mean, the first ship that came off the production line, took a 2-week. Was designed to do 2-3 weeks to and from Atlantis. Like it is designed to have that long-term thing. So you need all the food. They haven't got replicators, so they need food. They need water. They need supplies. They need technology. All fighter repair parts. A huge amount of stuff needs to be on the ship. But it does certainly just bring it into a sense of actually the scale might make sense. But it's certainly big, but not too big. Well, if you go to the next picture, though, you get a different perspective of scale, because obviously length is only one thing, or dimensions, but I mean, in terms of compact size, actually, it's roughly the same as the E, and that kind of gives you a sense. I don't know how big the corridors are exactly compared to Star Trek, but it's interesting.
Yeah, it's not too blocky and big like we've seen before.
Yeah.
This is very, sleek, to steal your word, sleeker than a lot of the stuff we've looked at. So yeah, I think this is very cool. I like the way the front end looks. It looks very looks defiant-y almost.
A little bit. A little bit.
I got the defiant here, so
Sure you do.
see, it's got that shape.
Yeah.
Which I like.
Yeah.
So.
I just love all the angles of the ship. It's such a wonderful vessel for me. But the next picture, and again, this is the cannon stuff. I'm so excited. This is the aft stuff, and it gives you a sense of the raw engine power to do this. But what do you think about that?
That's a lot of engines.
Yes, it is.
So, are there sublight engines as well as FTL drives?
Will you tell me what do you think? What do you think based on all that?
I hate this. I would assume that the smaller ones might be the sublights, and the two big ones are the FTL drives.
No.
The way around.
No.
Oh.
There's a picture later on that shows the FTL, but the middle two engines are the big sublight. They're for the punch. The secondary 4 on each side is for extra bit of juice. It's there's extra.
They were more maneuvering engines on the side.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, we're beyond using fuel for engines. We're now into like ion thrust and actual sublight, more like Star Trek. So we don't need fuel. That's why they can be a lot smaller. But in fact, and we'll see in another picture I'll point it out. But there's two in between the primary, the 4 engines and the 2 engines. There's there's one on each side, little rectangles. There's 2 internal. Those are actually small hyperspace generators. In the older ship, they're much bigger, but refinement has led them to be very small. And in hyperspace in this universe, I know this one pretty well, it creates a subspace sort of rip, and then you go through it's like a tunnel. So you have to create that field, and then it pushes you in. So it's kind of... It doesn't need to be very big, but the hyperspace engines obviously inside, but they're just the generators that create the field. A lot of explanation, but I like this shot because there's a lot of detailing, and there's a great picture later on which shows the cannons, because this is a pretty heavily armed ship. I mean, even though they've got this advanced technology, this iteration of the Daedalus or the X-304 is armed with modern day weapons, so literally rail guns as you would see on aircraft carriers that fire bullets and rockets. So to have some sort of coverage, the rockets fire out the front, I think there might be an aft one as well, but then there are those machine gun turrets all around the ship, and we'll show you in a minute how good. I mean, if you zoom in a little bit and look at the aft there, I mean, you can start to see turrets all across the back. Basically, the entire rim of the ship is turrets, which is, a great defensive perimeter.
Yeah, I really love looking at the actual studio models to see the detail that's in these.
Mm-hmm.
This is fantastic. Actually, I didn't even notice all those little turrets until you told me to zoom in.
Yep. This is why it's fun to do. Now, in the later iteration, there is laser weapons that get added, but they are sort of fired from a forward section. They don't actually change the physical model for that, but that's when they just put emitters in. But that becomes a primary weapon, but obviously still use the rail guns and things. But yeah.
Let's go to the next picture. This is shot from it behind and underneath.
This is a shot you very rarely see in Stargate, so I thought I'd put it in there.
That's cool. Those center engines take up like a lot of the ship's length, eh?
Yeah, it does change the feel of the ship, and you realize sort of not hollow, but it does sort of taper up a bit.
Yeah.
Like it's not as thick. It's actually very mechanical bottom here.
Yeah, and that goes back to what I was talking earlier. It doesn't have the bulk of a lot of the other ships we look at on this show. It's very streamlined, and no, not streamlined. It's very
functional
and minimalistic almost. It's it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't look like a brick in space.
When you it's close to the Star Trek aesthetic, where the technology is shrunk, is more compressed. I think if you made this all smooth surfaces and maybe swapped the engines to warp engines, this would be potentially a workable Star Trek one, because the lines are actually quite nice. They're a bit more hard edged than we're used to. But although I will point out, you were saying about the big engines, but also so you don't see these details in the show. But actually, the 3 sublet engines are the 4 in the either side actually also go back quite a way. And I've never seen that.
Mm-hmm.
It does kind of make you think that the bottom is like weaker. Like if they shot the bottom, it could be very effective.
Yeah, it does look like it might be at risk of being.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm zooming in here, and this is just incredible, this detail.
Yeah,
wow.
This is one of the latest models, obviously, we've ever had on the show, because Star Trek was many years ago. This is well after. I mean, this is like a 2008, as opposed to 2004 for Enterprise, a lot of the stuff. So,
and it does have that very modern military feel, vibe of the guns and whatnot. Like it makes sense that this is our progression for military into space. I like it.
That's why it's such a good payoff when the ship comes along, because it's just such a nice shape and the detailing. But I mean, it kind of feels like, knowing how the front looks on the top with that extra hull, it almost feels like a turtle. They're going for
exactly what I was thinking looking at that first shot.
Yeah, because most things are weak. I mean, if you look at a car, the bottom underneath the hood, it's a hole for ventilation. So I mean, the parts you're focusing on is the front to stop damage, and then obviously the sides and the top. I mean, that's what you have. So maybe that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm sure fires can get everywhere, but if you're going to try and angle yourself always in a confrontation, I mean, think about Star Trek. I mean, it's always like that. I mean, for that it's more like this. But if you did that, I mean, well, you're running away, aren't you, at that point? So the next picture is from the front, showing some of the cool angles, and you get to even it's even a different perspective of this, because you see sort of the circular parts of the engines, but they come back, and there's a secondary set of hull. I don't know. It's a cool angle.
It is, but this makes me compare it to everything else we look at on this show. They've all got antennas sticking out the front. Like, why do you need to do that? I get it. It looks cool. It really does. And when you're looking at one ship, you're like, it's awesome. But when you look at like 15 ships that from all different franchises that all have the same thing, you're like, really?
Well, this I think is quite minimalist though. There's only like 6, and they're very clearly like antennas for piggybacking sense. I mean, it's very, I get real functional vibe,
Yeah.
Plus, it's that little aggressive slant out, and I really can't wait to do the full episode on this to do renders and animations. It's going to be so much fun.
And again, a little bit of reproportioning of things, and you got yourself a battle star. Telling you, make that head part a little bit wider, make the pontoons or the bays bigger and longer. You got a battle star. It's the same kind of look,
but cooler.
Sure.
I mean, I love Pegasus with a passion, but it's a different beast. This is a beast I like. I mean, I like both beasts. Oh, that is called the Beast in BSG. The Beast.
The Beast.
Yes.
All right, so the next picture, we got a close-up of the front, those antennas again.
This is sort of a shot.
So where's the bridge in this thing? Is the bridge the command thing on the top back? Or
Good
is it
question. No.
Is it in the heart of the ship?
Well, I just want to point out, this is a great shot because this is a shot you see often in the show from firing missiles from, that bit that comes out the front. Just behind that, there's bay doors and the missiles come out of there. That's where the primary Hornets and missiles. But also, if you look at the sides, there are more gun turrets and things. No, the bridge isn't actually in that section. I believe I have a picture of the bridge in one of... no, I don't. I'll have to show it to you later. The bridge is actually in the middle of that secondary middle bit. So if you zoom in, you can see those sort of glowing slight blue elements, which are windows.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the upper shell, and you've got the upper, observation dome platform thing. Well, it's that lower set of windows. That middle window, that's the bridge. So it looks out on the front of the ship, where the missiles come out and things.
Oh, wow, cool.
I'm assuming that top bit is going to be the sensor platform, the sensor package area, where they're really dedicated to keeping... I mean, a lot of things need to be functional for the ship to work, so... I guess.
Does this ship have energy shielding, or is it all armor?
No. This is the great thing about Stargate is that we build up, like I say, every year upon year. So no, they started out with Gould shields, which were in the first Prometheus, which was sort of a goldy energy shielding. But then we were given Asgard shields, which are far more effective. And they were bluey. So very powerful energy shields, and also force fields. We have force fields. So the hangar bay doors, they can be pressurized with a force field. We've seen that multiple times, and breaches can be closed off and things. This is a pretty advanced ship. But I just like the angles and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I like this ship. Don't get me wrong.
You're gonna like the next picture though.
All right. Well, I'm looking at the next picture. Talk to me about it.
Well, first of all, you can see the railgun cannon on the right. That's what the turret looks like. Two minigun railguns. How cool is that? It's just
little M134 miniguns.
Yep, but that's what you'd have. That's what we have. You want that anti-missile defense and anti-fighter. Yeah, exactly. Because in the Stargate world, you have fighters, so you need to fend off the fighters, but you can't have that many missiles on board. But at the same time, you wouldn't expect bullets to destroy the bigger ships. You need the missiles. So it's very much makes sense. But this is obviously the hangar. I want to just point out all the detail in the hangar. Those doors, a nice little landing runway. The doors open, big wide stretch. It can shoot out not necessarily two at a time, but sort of staggered two at a time. But I mean, this version is a very heavy duty carrier. I think it can launch, multiple.
I was going to ask, what's the complement of fighters or whatever it has?
Let's see if I can check. Between 8 to 16 F-302s, so 8 on each. And I'm sure they can fit more if need be, but that's the standard set, so 8 each. Which is pretty good. But its crew is 200-ish. And that's pretty darn low for that amount of space. Minimum crew 4.
Wow.
Although one thing they make a big point of is, in one episode specifically, is that technology only goes so far. The one piece of technology that you still have to deal with is oxygen, is recycling air.
Yeah.
You can't just have 1,000 people on because there's not enough air for them to breathe. So there is a distinct limit. So it's 200 then space for other people to, come on if need be. But there's a limit to how many people this ship can hold.
Does this thing have like escape pods or any kind of life craft vessels or?
No, but it does have several ways of getting off the ship. Obviously, you've got the F-302s. Sometimes they have pole jumpers, which are in Atlantis. You know what the pole jumpers are, though. They have multiple you can fit more people on. But it does have two types of transportation mechanisms as gold ring transporters, which technically ancient, but still, which is you can transport 8 or 10 people off at a time, and as Asgard beams, which are basically just transporters. So in an emergency situation, there are emergency protocols to get everyone off the ship. So yeah, that sort of stuff is redundant, and I believe a lot of the systems are in redundant parts of the ship, so they don't go offline as easily, I believe. But yeah, so a lot of it's a natural progression, I think, this, but with some pretty advanced tech. Year introduced 2005.
Cool.
Yeah, but I just want to show
be up there. We don't know.
I could see it being up there, but I'm just biased. I'm very biased. And one thing you see there's at the bottom right, that's actually the intro to a second hangar, which you rarely see and you don't really get a sense of. We sort of assume it's maybe a cargo-y hangar, maybe. Again, not really explored, and I'd love to get close to the model and see. And also, what I have a Bubble Jumper, I have a Exo 2. What can actually fit in there? Because there's a limit to size. So I'm interested to see that as well.
Right, let's go to the next one, and this is the upper, like, on an aircraft carrier, it'd be like the control tower kind of thing, keeping a look over at the deck. So, is that what that is here, or?
That's my assumption. But what's interesting is if you break down the model, we know where the bridge is because you can see out of the window the front I told you before. But actually, the front of this area has the exact same window configuration as the other part, which implying it could also be the bridge. So I'm assuming they just put it there because they didn't know when they originally built the model. They might not have known where the bridge was. That's also a natural location, although it's very much off to one side, or it could be a secondary command module if need be. It could be a
battle bridge.
Yeah, sure. Although I definitely think, you can see the amount of sensor dishes. I'm sure it's a communications area and other things. And obviously got more antennas. It just links into the aircraft carrier motif. I think that's where it's obviously going for. Well, I'm interested in what on earth to the right hand side of it, those pointing forward deflector pointy things, because you don't see these on the.
I just have that zoomed in right now because I was looking at that, thinking what I should talk about. I was going to say more antennas, but then I wasn't going to say it because I don't know.
I don't know. It's interesting because you don't see these details in the show, but they're there.
And our job here on Trekyards and Fleetyards is to look at these things and kind of speculate what they could be.
Yes.
So let's say those are targeting sensors.
Nice. I do get the sense of the ship because if you look at modern, because it's very much a continuation of the modern aircraft carrier aesthetic, you have a lot of redundancies. Secondary systems, tertiary systems. I would assume they have multiple versions of these different, like I said, targeting sensors. So I'm assuming that would be one of the many.
Cool.
But the next picture is an aft shot, and this is a good view because it gives you perfect look at the. Well, I'll talk about the FTL generators in between the. Two outer and then in the two, so they sort of flash blue when they create the hyperspace effect, as it were, and then just passes in. So that's the very small FTL generators, or at least the equivalent of warp coils, or the generators inside the ship. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's got a very Klingon looking back end there, right above those. Just that dome with the. It looks like they would be on the back of almost every Klingon ship.
Aft torpedo launcher.
Yeah, something like that. Does that have a purpose that you know of, or?
It's just wonderful detailing. I don't know. One thing I quite like about the top element is how it's actually very smooth. It's just plated, but there's a few functional greebly bits, but it's not like the whole thing. It's just as if there needs to be certain parts up above, and that's the functional elements, like it feels more like functional again, but yeah, it feels like that to me anyway.
Cool. Yeah, I really like this ship actually. And going back to the next picture, which is the first picture, which is the last picture, which is very.
And the bridge, if you look at the top of the front of the tortoiseshell, there's that buildingy, that upper raised bit. That front window is meant to be the bridge.
Okay, cool.
So it's kind of like in an unusual place, but also very central. And if you look in front of that, all those doors are where the missiles can come out of.
Very submarine style. Yes, I like that.
Yep, it is very neatly, naturally linking in, and just like I say, one of my favorite ships of all sci-fi. And I'm so amazed.
It looks like they took 2 aircraft carriers because of the size of aircraft carriers, put them on the side, attached a submarine on the front, and then put a tank in the middle. It's all like military hardware. It needs a big gun though on the top for a tank. I think that'd be wicked cool to have a big gun there.
Wow.
Gun.
Yeah.
I redesigned it. It's awesome.
Daedalus X-305.
I'm gonna get some model kits. I'm gonna get some aircraft carriers and subs and build one myself and show you. It'll be awesome. Anyway, I think that's it for this. I mean, it's one of your favorite ships, so it was fun to look at it with you.
I'm so thrilled to have the model, and this is an absolute dream. You know, I've got a fan model which is pretty not good, so to have the real one, I cannot wait to do more with this ship. You know, we had the Prometheus when we did the original Fleetyards trailers, didn't have the Daedalus yet, now we do. I'm so thrilled. So, I guess, I think I've brought you around to her more than you have.
Absolutely. And see, that's what I like about this show, because that can happen. I go into it going, and then come out going, yeah. But a lot of times it does happen the other way around, where I think, oh, that's cool. And then I look more closely at some ships and I'm like, no. So this show's fun that way. Plus, there will be episodes where I bring in a ship that he doesn't know much about, and he might get a new appreciation for it, too.
Hopefully.
But anyway, I think that's it for this episode, guys. My final thoughts, this is... Like I said, it's grown on me. I think it's very functional, very practical, especially from a military standpoint, from our modern military, as the next step to go out into space. I really think that it's something that works like 100%. They hit the nail on the head with this one. So what are your final thoughts, even though you've kind of love it because you've known it forever?
I want one.
Good final thought.
And if you want to support the show, guys, which you do need to do to help us do the full episodes and the full Fleetyards, all the renders, animations, I can make this thing fly, you have to go to Patreon and support us to get that 1,000 goal. Then we can start churning out these as the full detail and get to see some even more cool stuff.
Yes, exactly. And please hit the like button and subscribe button so you don't miss out on any Fleetyards mission briefings. We have them every week. We have our regular Trekyards shows, so check out Trekyards.com if you're interested in Star Trek ships at all. And I guess... we'll call that a wrap.
And I just want one last thing. This is just one of the many real 3D models we have from other shows. It's not just Trek. We're amazingly lucky to have a few other ones, so you'll be seeing even more in the weeks and months to come, hopefully. So yeah, there you go. Last thought.
All right, can I finish now?
Yes.
All right, guys. I think that's it for this episode. And like I said, check us out every week. And we look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Captain Foley.
And I'm Connor Calkins.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Insert clever Stargate thing here. I don't know.
Indeed.